We're live.
Okay. Members of council, members of staff, I believe we do have some staff that are joining us online. I'm not sure just who they are, but I do know we do have some staff that are joining us, so I'll welcome them. And I'll welcome members of the audience to our regular council meeting on Monday, March the 13th, 2023. Council has met in camera. We met a little longer than we thought, but we did come out, and so we're returning now, and it's just about 10 minutes to 6. So we apologize for the delay, but we are back on schedule. Okay, welcome to the meeting. And at the beginning of our meeting, I always like to start with our land acknowledgement. So I'd like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Tiatanati, the Wendat, and is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as part of an intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships and ask for guidance in all that we do. And as always, it's I say this statement voluntarily, and I'm honored to do so as the mayor of the Township of Clearview. Council, as I said, council's already met in camera. So council, we're moving directly to item number 2, which is our approval of the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda dated March 13, 2023 be approved as presented. A mover and seconder, please. Mr. MacArthur, Mr. Broderick, any questions on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Disclosure, pecuniary interest, and general nature thereof. Has anybody got any disclosures? Nope, don't see any. If anything comes up during the meeting, please bring it forward and we'll deal with it right away for you. Item 4 is our public participation period. I look out in our audience. We have some members of the public. Unsure if anybody wants to come forward. Is there a public participation? Please be advised. Please be advised that comments and views expressed under public participation period are not the views of the Township of Clearview Council or the administration. Each our public participation limited to 15 minutes. Each person is limited to 5. Questions are directed to the mayor. Questions shall not be referred to personnel matters, litigation, or potential litigation, or planning matters that have already had a public meeting or any item considered confidential. Bob, would you like to come to the podium, Bob? We didn't set up the big microphone because we didn't have a whole lot of people here. So welcome to the podium.
Thank you.
Members of council, we have a public participation joining us, so that's great.
Good evening.
Yes.
Your worship, members of council and members of staff. I wanted to make a few comments with regard to the bylaw 2326 that's on this evening's agenda. I actually wanted to send this in earlier, but I had something that didn't balance in my spreadsheet, so I'm going to give it to you verbally.
Yes.
The bid for Sunnydale Community Center has come in at $890,800. That's 28.35% over the J.R. Burnside estimate of $694,000 that was put before council on February the 25th, 22. If we add the 6% projected consultation fees and 1.76% HST, the cost would be $961,000. I don't know about that 1.76. That's a figure I got, a rate I got off the internet. Maybe it's for the wrong thing, but if it's correct, then it's 138.5% increase over the original budget. That's provided, of course, that it comes in as bid. And it's well known that renovation projects often provide unexpected surprises as things get torn apart during the construction process. When council approved the project to do the renovations for the 6 halls, Burnside's estimate for the total project was $5,675,000. If the rest of the halls see similar over budget bids, we will expect to see the total increase to $7.8 million. However, Burnside's original estimate does not include a couple of significant considerations. No allowance has been made for an accelerator to allow for inflation, as these projects are spread over a 3-year period. In my estimate, I added 4% inflation factor for 2024 and 8% for 2025. That would increase the projected costs a further $348,000. I believe that even with the additional reserve contributions of $250,000 annually for 2023 through 2025, the project will be in negative cash flow during the work of the first two halls. It's my understanding that bridge financing will be required to fund the balance of the project, and interest charges should be added to the project costs. Using an interest rate of 5% and applying it to the year-end year-end carryover reserve deficit, and only 75% of the annual project costs, I estimate the interest carrying costs would be approximately $970,000. The 5% interest rate was the rate used when assessing the bridge financing cost as presented to council on April the 6th, 22. Prime has increased 4% since that date, so my estimate is likely conservative in the extreme. These adjustments would result in the project running to $10.3 million, 82% more than council looked at when this project was approved. How can we justify proceeding with this project without a full reassessment? The previous council passed a resolution to proceed with the renovation program with virtually no public input apart from the hall board members. There is no evidence of any business plan having been prepared to support this project. It is recognized that the halls are not intended to operate on a profit-making basis, but it only makes sense that a business plan would be prepared, including a forecast of each hall's expense and revenues for, say, the next 2 years, and their expectations post-renovation, including costs covered by Parks and Rec, to determine their contribution, positive or negative, to the budget of Parks and Rec Department. Also, a forecast of the debt servicing costs broken out for each hall. This will show us what the net contribution or shortfall each hall is likely to incur, and will illustrate the impact the renovations and operating of the halls will have on taxation. This information should be made public in advance of proceeding with the renovation projects. The public should be then given an opportunity to voice their support or otherwise, armed with the information in hand to make an educated decision. It would also give council the tools to make an educated decision based on the full impact of the project rather than the estimates that are no longer valid. Although council instructed staff to proceed with this program, it must not mean that it is on automatic pilot and be allowed to proceed without a wholesome review of the cost to taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charlton. I appreciate your presentation. I would ask if you could send that to all members of council for their consideration in the written form, as you prepared a very nice statement. Thank you. All right. Is there anybody else who'd like to address council at this time? All right, seeing none, we will close our public participation period then, and thank the member of the public who did come forward and speak. All right, council, we have a deputation who has been patiently waiting to speak to us. Dave Ritchie is here from the Simcoe County Federation of Agriculture. Dave, welcome aboard. It's great to have you back here at the Chambers of Clearview Town.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I know you have seen this presentation already, Your Worship, but we've made it a point. Tonight, I have one of your residents, a longtime member, John Elder. There's a few others that haven't made it yet, but we believe at the Simcoe County Federation, we need to do an outreach program that we're doing some communicating. With this presentation tonight, we wanted to tell you what Simcoe County Federation is all about. We're celebrating our 83rd year in the County of Simcoe as an advocate for agriculture. We support the 4-H clubs. We have bursaries for further education and kids to go on further. We had a couple other programs like Keep Kids Safe, which is actually going to happen in April the 15th at Huron Tractor. So if there's anybody that's got kids from 4 to 8, both staff, our administrator, Danny DeBoer, Ty Linsky, and a bunch of them have did a bang up job, and they're going to be having that on the 15th of April. Farmers Feed Cities program had got shelved because of COVID. We're sort of coming back out of COVID mode, and we hope to have that up and running again next summer, a year from now in 2024. I think with that, when we had COVID, we took and made a whole bunch of videos on 10 different aspects of agriculture in Simcoe County. Some of the other things that we've been doing, we donated to the food banks. We're just a little over $10,000 for the second or third time around. We just finished that. We give money to the Allison Food Bank and 8 others, Guest House. Right off the top of my head, I'd have to ask the secretary who we sent checks to. Agriculture in Simcoe County is, I don't need to tell some is big business. We farm, manage, mentor, stewardship some 500,000 acres within our boundaries in Simcoe County. We generate $1.1 billion worth of economic activity. 1 in 8 jobs comes from agriculture. And so that puts us into one of the major engines, economic engines within the county. So if I could ask staff, we've got this video, and I'd like to share that with you before I continue, Your Worship. So.
This is a farm that we bought at just north of Wyvale. There's 130 acres here and 250. This is a farm that we bought at just north of Wyvale. There's 130 acres here and
Chambers here.
What's Your Worship?
We're going to be renovating our chambers in the,
Well,
it's in the budget. So part of that will be a little bit updated audio.
Well, listen, we've had troubles before, Your Worship. And listen, what's Your Worship?
We're going to be renovating our chambers in the, it's in the budget. So part of that will be a little bit updated audio.
Well, listen, we've had troubles before, Your Worship. And listen, what's Your Worship?
We're going to be renovating our chambers in the budget. So part of that will be a little bit updated.
I give them their dues. They stood back and said, these people need this first. So I think I commend them for that. So listen, it's making it work and having money. Like that's key. You know, when I'm standing in front of this lecture and I share something, I need this first. So I think I commend them for that. So listen, and whatnot. It's making it work and having money. I have to speak in at the Margaret side.
this is,
You know, I'm standing in front of this lecture and I share something. I need this first, so if you want to play it, I can do too. I
farm that we bought.
You know, I'm standing in front of the lecture and I share something. If you want to play it, I can do okay. As long as it plays, I can maybe explain to you some of the people that you're going to recognize.
You know, I'm standing in front of the lecture and I share something.
If you want to play it, Okay, as long as it plays, I can maybe explain to you some of the people that changes. You're going to recognize this picture here is from Landcroft Farm, north of Elmville. This is Ross Langman here dumping a bunch of wheat. They're combine that's Ross, you're going to one of the brothers from north of Elmville. Sons, nephew, Ross Langman, they farm close to 4,000 acres. Combine and Ross is getting a little monetary. This is one of the brothers, Talma, she's a beef herd, Angus, whatnot. And explain. This is Ross, the brother, Angus, whatnot. Explain. This is an this is Dole sod down in Alliston. This sod machine here, you see you're working here right now. That's Mark Jervis. This is a native Berry Hill Farm behind Barry. And explaining to him, he's got some of the staff that has been working for close to 20 years on the floor, and they'll be coming in now. And start pruning the Berry Hill Farm back to the sod farm again. Explains as Bob got some of the staff that has been working for that sod machine on that. He just made over the fence in Central County and measured by to the sod. Some of the Christmas tree people. I'm not too sure if this is in Drysdale's down the south end. I don't know this kind of equipment existed for pruning and trimming trees, but it's quite the thing. Some of the Christmas trees, quite a few Christmas trees in Central County, especially in the northern part up where we are. This kind of equipment existed for pruning and this fella here that we're see now is John Williams. He's an empty subject. He just lives around the corner from my place. And runs a pretty tight ship running close to 4,000 trees. This fella here, treasurer of the Ontario Maple Syrup Producers, he's renovated an old dairy barn and draws half one of them. This picture here is a picture of David Springer by Elmville, Maple Syrup, and that's David Barry. He was talking about how fortunate we are in Central County to have the weather and the soil and the climate David Springer to be able to grow the crops that we grow. David Barry. He was talking about, and then we are, remember face to all you folks, John Miller, weather, who Marine started Barry 15 plus years ago, I guess, with the idea of having reusable glass bottles and whatnot. And since then, and it's been a lot of hard work, it's taken off. And actually, they've expanded their product. They're making a studio that Cashtown Crunches is out for, and whatnot. And since John's been on the milk and real good. These guys played an enterprise there. I believe they have a dairy day. Did, but not exactly sure. COVID. A lot of us are kind of feeling our way with COVID. I think even Sheldon Creek, they have a dairy day. Wheel or Horns. I haven't talked to John recently as to whether or not a lot of us are kind of feeling our way. They are going to have it this summer. COVID. I think they have a dairy day. Wheel or Horns. I haven't talked to John recently as to whether or not a lot of us are kind of feeling our way. Well, listen, to wrap this up, Your Worship, I appreciate the time here, but I think some of the messages that we want to send here is that agriculture, the community, people that was in this video are part of your community. Your Worship, the people that sit on the boards, but I think council, they work at the church groups, the fair board, and whatnot. Agriculture, the community, people that was are part of your community. Your Worship, if there's any ask or mention of anything else with the message today, we're losing well over 350 agriculture, the community. province of Ontario. And if there's any, and the rules are on one side and we're on the other side. And I do, and to try to do anything, you got to stop moving. The province of Ontario in 5 years. We're not against building. We're not against any of that. One side, let's build smart. Let's build up. Let's build around, not over. Anything as I think push the farming community so we can make room for everybody and still maintain viable farming, because without agriculture in Simcoe County, that not over. Tough call. I think small communities like this one, still in agriculture is viable. So with that, your worship, I will entertain any questions. I got one more thing. I want to welcome this week's mayor. He was brave enough to put his name forward to be our ag liaison from the county to the Federation of Agriculture, and we welcome Paul on board and look forward to working with him. So thanks for doing that, Paul.
Excellent. I'm glad you mentioned it. I was going to bring it up as well, and I was really pleased that Paul put forward his name on that committee, and council supported his nomination. So we
need more farmers.
Well, there you go. Yes, go ahead, Paul. He wants a few things.
Thank you, David. We actually were in a meeting last week by Zoom, and so we got our feet wet together, we'll say, and we'll be starting more work as far as with the county and with the NVC in the next little while. I remind everybody, our agriculture, we look at this, our committee, like Robert and myself, both farmers. We also have our warden, Basil Clark, is a farmer.
Sure is. So
we are getting some good representation. We do cover Simcoe County and agriculture. We cover a big swath of land. So it's, as I said to you, Dave, earlier, it's going to be interesting going forward over the next couple of years, what goes on.
Yep.
We had the opportunity, for those who remember, that Jill Rottenberg, who spoke in regards to different education options through Lakehead University. And I reached out to her during our meeting, and she was going to talk to me afterwards, but she took off right away. And I brought this up with Dave because they're looking for options as far as a school, the university, of what they can pursue. And when you put in perspective, 1 out of 8 jobs is either agriculture or agriculture related. So agriculture business, whatever. That's really important to this community and to the province. We also talked in my election or nomination or run that the land we're using, which was brought up again today, the province is expecting 500,000 people to arrive in this province in the next 10 years. And most of them are going to live along the 401, 400 corridors. We need places for them to live, but we also need food for them to feed. So keep it in mind. We're very strong. We're advocates for agriculture.
Yep.
And Dave, let's see what we can do with it.
You bet. Well, to you, your worship, to Paul, I know who you're talking about, Jill. I sit on the PACE committee with Lakehead University over in Aurelia, have been for the last 3 or 4 years, and have been doing some work. They have a research, Lakehead has a research firm up at Thunder Bay. Dr. Singh has actually just got named to the Agricultural Hall of Fame for some of the work he's been doing. So when I saw Linda come in there last year, she knew me before I knew her. My name rang a bell with her dad, Jack. How many years has he been down there, Paul? He's a fixture, and her sister's actually milking cows with 3 or 4 robots. So she's a good ear. I mentioned to her too, and I don't want to forget this. We had the summer barbecue. Federation of Agriculture has our summer barbecue. We're getting it going again for the first year in 3 years. It's going to be at John Beatty's Potato Farm, south of Alliston, July the 6th, from 2 to whenever. So if you put that down, we're doing one thing at a time. So we're getting the Keep Kids Safe program off and done, and then we will move forward. But I would encourage both yourselves, council and staff, to come and see what we do. That's what our mission. We've been like everybody else. We've been kind of had our hands tied for the last few years with COVID. we could do a lot of things, but we're coming back strong. And we want to be able to reach out and communicate what we do within our parameters in Simcoe County, because we've got three things in Simcoe County that we're lucky. We've got the weather, we've got the soil, but we've got the people. And some of the people that's in Simcoe County are cutting edge, whether you see the sod guys, some of the potato guys, the vegetable growers, there's just none better. We got one guy growing vegetables in 3 different countries. And actually, John's shipping carrots to California because they can't grow them as big as we can. So just a note for that. So with that, your worship, I thank you for your time and your counsel. And if there's anything, we are a resource as well.
Yep.
So if there's anything that any of you have a question, please get back to me. I'd be glad to help you.
All right. I'll look to other members of council if they have any quick questions that they'd like to ask. Please go right ahead, Councillor MacArthur.
Yeah, not so much a question, but I was reading in the OFA newsletter there last week that we also have our Canadian president of the Federation of Agriculture living right here in Clearview Township with Keith Curry.
Keith Curry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So applaud you guys for doing what you do. And
well, and a good ambassador for agriculture, Keith is. He's been at it a long time and quite a commitment. You have no life when you're on the road every day. And the lady that was out in the East Coast that had the job for the last 4 years, is spent. And I take my hat off. One of the people that our district OFA rep is Pierre Paul Maurice from LaFontaine, farmer as well. And part of you guys, probably a lot of you people maybe know Paul. He's actually took over from Keith when Keith stepped down last year. And now Paul's the area rep for Region 11 for York, Simcoe, Peel. So with that, all of us are here to help you. So
that's fantastic.
Thank you.
That's great. I didn't know that tidbit there from LaFontaine, but that's great to hear.
Okay.
All right. Listen, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
John, thank you for coming. And we appreciate hearing from you. You may be pleased to know that every time I get asked about Clearview Township, I always point out that agriculture is the #1 economic activity that happens in our township. And it is for sure. All right. Thanks, gentlemen, for your presentation. Council, I got a resolution here. Be it resolved that the deputation by Dave Ritchie of Simcoe County Federation of Agriculture regarding Simcoe County Federation of Agriculture introduction be received. Can I have a mover and seconder? Ms. Deneen, Mr. Walker, any questions? All those in favor? That passes unanimous. Thank you. You're always welcome, fellas. Come on back anytime. Of course, with John. You make sure he gets back here sometime. All right. Council will move on. Item number 6 is our public meeting. There are no public meetings tonight. So item number 7 is approval of the council meeting minutes. There's a pair of meetings. They're both held on February 27th. Be it resolved that the minutes of the February 27, 2023 council meeting and special council meeting of February 27, 2023 be approved as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Mr. Broderick, Mr. MacArthur, any questions on the minutes, the pair of minutes? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. Minutes are received. Business arising from the minutes. Anything with any business? Seeing none. Communications from the mayor. I have one item, and that is that we had a closed session. Council will be receiving, considering a bylaw underneath the bylaw section of our agenda. It's in regards to appointment of members identified in closed sessions for township boards and committees. And there one council member or one board member is being removed. So that's part of our budget, or sorry, our bylaw session coming up a little later. And that's all I have at this hour from my desk. So I'll turn right to county reports. Mr. Deputy Mayor, do you have anything you want to add? We have a big council meeting tomorrow.
We have council tomorrow. We did, as I mentioned with Mr. Ritchie here, we did start our, as the appointment for the Ag Advisory, advisor for Simcoe County. We had our meeting last week, and for the rest, everything is starting to get up and running. So
that's right. The council is really working well, and I know that our warden has made an appointment to come over and meet with yourself and I, as well as other members, if they want to join us. We're going to have a little session in here. I'll pass that invitation around later to the warden has set up a meeting with us. So,
yep.
All right. Any questions? All righty, council. We're going to move to item number 11. which is, of course, our council reports and community announcements. I do have a motion on here, but I'm going to default to be the last person to speak. So at this time, I'm going to go to Mr. Walker, and then I'll come around if anybody has anything like that. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the 6th of March, we attended the flag raising out at the hub to start the IT campaign, HIT campaign. On March the 4th, attended the Health and Leisure Showcase. And I'd like to thank Paul and Joe from the Accessibility Committee who were there for the day with me to answer any questions from the public. And some of the main questions we were asked was what is the role of the Clearview Accessibility Committee? Some people talked about downtown stores and accessibility to the stores. And then they talked about sidewalks and mobility scooters. All those, of course, have come up in conversation with the committee and with our staff. The other couple of things I'd like to report is the Cyber Gnomes were in Chicago this past weekend. Their 3-team alliance was defeated in the semifinal match.
Yes.
So to them, congratulations on a job well done and getting to that goal. And the other is Stainer Siskins are playing Midland in the first round and are up 3-0 with game 4 in Midland tomorrow evening. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you very much, Bob. Marty, do you have anything you want to add tonight?
Thank you, Your Worship. March 3rd, 4th, and 5th, I was a judge at the robotics competition at Georgian College. It was a lot of fun. If you haven't been to one of these, go, you'll be entertained. The other thing is on March 8th, I attended the Stay More Challenge, which is the Creemore Daytime Curlers versus the Stainer Daytime Curlers. And the Creemore teams edged out the Stainer teams to defend the championship and defend their title. That was it.
Congratulations. I know you're on that team, so good job. Phyllis, Councillor Janine, how are you?
Thank you. Thanks for asking. I don't have a lot. I have not been home. 15 other Clearview residents and myself went to a wedding.
Yes.
And we were in warm weather. And it was quite interesting coming back to yesterday's snow, but that's all water under the bridge. I just want to put out there, thanks to Terry and the Parks and Rec Department, we're moving along with our plans for McKean Memorial Park. More info to come from there. And also been told that there are plans and the washroom rental for the baseball park is being looked into and pretty much in place. Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much. Glad you had a good trip away. Thank you. Mr. Deputy Mayor, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Oh, further to what we were just talking about, just to let everybody know that the worship mayor and myself will be celebrities tomorrow. And I'm not sure when we'll be aired, but we are going to be presenting ourselves as the people from Clearview in an interview or whatever. So look for us at a later date. We can tell them when we will be, we'll see how we do.
Celebrities, eh?
Celebrities. Well, anyways, we'll be there with our hair combed and our ties on.
I'll have my tie on tomorrow.
So anyways, thank you.
Thank you. How you doing there, Robert?
Good, thanks, Your Worship. Sound like a broken record, but it's finally here this Friday is St. Paddy's party at Station on the Green. So it's a sold out event. Totally looking forward to that. Attended Creemore BIA meeting and we had another Station on the Green meeting and there's a lot of exciting stuff in the works for Creemore and area this summer and going forwards. That's
excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor. John, Councillor Broder.
Thank you, Your Worship. On February 28th, I attended the BIA meeting and the executive elections. On March the 6th, of course, It Starts flag raising with other councillors as well. On March the 8th, Women's Day, attended the Clearview Chamber of Commerce executive meeting. And the 13th, this morning, actually attended an events planning session regarding the Canada Day and the Back Roads Rally. March the 14th is a planning session for the BIA, and March 15th is the Clearview Chamber of Commerce regular meeting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you for all that. I have a couple of items and then I'll be passing the chair. The first thing I want to mention is Councillor Walker mentioned the Stainer Siskins. They are up 3-0 against Midland. I would like to point out that the expected outcome of the Alliston Hornets playing the Penetanguishene Kings is that they're currently 2 games up to the Kings. And so if the Hornets are successful and they make that series, we will be having again the most traditional battle of the junior C hockey in our area, and that is the Alliston Hornets playing the Stainer Siskins once again in the Stainer Arena. So I've had a conversation with Mayor Norcross, and so the challenge continues with New Tecumseh and Clearview Township. So Mayor Norcross will be proudly wearing a Clearview jersey when this is all done. How's that say? All right. Anyhow, I just want to mention that. I also want to mention too the Culture Recreation and Leisure Show. What a great turnout! Really great to see the hall being used and to see all the community groups coming out to support activities in our community. It was a really good day. Great effort by our staff that put that on, and really fantastic to see so many organizations that are run by volunteers right here in our community. So I couldn't have been more pleased. It was a great day. Okay, Council, item number 11.1 is a report. So at this time, I'm going to pass the chair to the Deputy Mayor. Mr. Deputy Mayor, you can take the chair.
Okay. At this point, I would like to bring on report C0U 001 2023, the naming of a bridge. If you go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'll read the recommendation and I'll be the mover. You can call for a seconder. This has to do with the naming of a bridge. Be it resolved, report number is COU 001 2023 dated March 13, 2023 be received. And further, that the new bridge structure being installed at the 3031 side road allowance over the Bateau Creek be named Ed Christie Bridge. And further, that any future mapping of the area uses the designation Ed Christie Bridge at this structure. And further, that council directs staff to work with the OFSC to install signage on the east and west sides of the new bridge. Mr. Chair, I'll be the mover.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder for that motion? Is there any Councillor Deneen is the seconder?
Thank you.
Is anybody wish to speak to this motion?
I would, of course.
And I will too.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This has been a wonderful project. When we lost Councillor Christie, his family were very clear that he was working on this project. He was working with the OFSC right up until the 1st of November. And then he unfortunately went to hospital. And one of the last meetings he had as a Clearview councillor was with the OFSC to discuss this project. Ed Christie had been working on this project for many months prior to that. The members of the OFSC have been working with the landowner that's immediately south of the river there and the creek to access the trail, and it became a very awkward trail location for the OFSC. And this resolution was a terrific result of Councillor Christie working with our staff at the time. Former Director LeMay was involved in some of these decisions. Since then, Dan Perot has been working with the OFSC to secure all of the approvals. The Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority gave their complete sign off on the project, and the structure should be installed, frankly, anytime. I believe actually, Mr. Chair, it was actually supposed to be installed on that Friday that we had the super snowstorm here, and the truck was delayed and they parked it somewhere. So the structure is built, it's all ready to go. It's just going to be installed. The volunteers at the OFSC, as you know, have been providing trails across our township here as well as all across Ontario. And this is a beautiful way to acknowledge the great work that Ed Christie did both as a Clearview councillor and as a citizen of Nottawa area. And his family are really excited about this proposal as it's been presented. So I would ask for council support. Sir?
Anybody else wish to speak to it? Robert?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I just recall over the years having many discussions regarding this bridge with Ed, and I'm just so pleased to see the final fruition and to see the resolution to naming it for Ed. I think it's very well deserved and fitting.
Thank you. I'd just like to throw my 2 cents worth in. A number of years ago, they had the Snowmobile Club had a problem with a particular property they couldn't come across. Ed Christie showed up in my shop one morning and said, "Paul, I need to talk to you." And within a few minutes, he asked, can we put one of the trails across one of your farms? And I said, "Ed, you can. You don't have to worry about it." Papers were signed. I think, John, you came out and we signed papers. Not that it was ever used, but Ed Christie was an advocate for this community and for snowmobiling and different things like that. So it shows well. His family still is within this community. And for those who knew Ed, he was a good man. So anyways, that's my 2 cents worth. At this point in time, I'd like to have a vote on this motion. Sorry, Mr. Beelan, did you want to speak to it?
Thank you, Your Deputy Worship. I'm wondering, could we have like an official opening of the bridge once it's
I would
completed?
presume that because I don't know, it's only
official
accessible.
naming, like once it's completed?
If I may, I would expect that will come out of the wash.
Okay.
They got to get the bridge installed and get it all sort of functioning and operational. And I'm sure that we can arrange something. In speaking with the family several months ago, they look forward to that as well. And I don't have any examples of what the actual signage would look like because, to be honest, the OFSC have some assets and resources available to them, and they may make a different kind of sign than what we've ever seen. But that's why the motion has asked them to work with our staff to make sure that it's appropriate. So.
And I do know when I was down south, the crane ended up being staged at our property. So it was in the area of the crane, whether they got it off.
I don't think it's been done.
I don't know. It was the weather
today.
stopped them, but I saw this $4 million crane sitting in my yard and it's like, okay. Anyways, that's fine. Any other comments to it? At this point, I'd like to have a vote. All in favor? Unanimously carried. Thank you. I'll pass the chair back to yourself, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Appreciate that. And thank you, members of council. I appreciate your support for this important recognition for Ed Christie. Okay, council, we're going to move on to item 12, which is our department reports. And first one is from planning. It's a zoning bylaw amendment, 15 Station Street, Glen Huron. Another beautiful spot in our township. I'll read the recommendation. I'll look for a mover and seconder. Recommendation be it resolved that report number PB 011-2023 dated March 13, 2023 be received, and further that the bylaw be brought forward to the council meeting of March 27, 2023 to amend zoning bylaw 06-54 generally consistent with the draft bylaw included as Appendix A to report PB 011-2023 for consideration. Can I have a mover and seconder on this motion? Ms. Deneen and Mr. MacArthur. Thank you. Any questions? Staff, any comments? Nothing? Nope, she's comfortable. Any questions? All right. My only question is to the clerk. This is coming back on the March 27th meeting. It'll just be showed up as just as a bylaw. There won't be any report on that meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Okay. Oh, there's Rosalind. Hi, Roz. Nice to see you. Again, I didn't know who was on board there. I couldn't see it from where I'm sitting. Hi, Roz. Did you have anything you want to add?
No, thank you, Your Worship.
No, I think you're muted still. That's still muted. Am I wrong? Yeah, maybe not. Nope. Oh, we're not hearing you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
This would be a great day for sign language, right?
We got your point.
We got your point, Roz. Thank you. That's unfortunate. We have to get this working. All right, members of council, if nothing further, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, council, we have the drinking water inspection reports. And that is MECP drinking water. This is a very nice report, actually. Be it resolved that report PW 005 2023 dated March 13, 2023 be received. Can I have a mover and seconder? Where are we at? Mr. Walker and Mr. Broderick, thank you. And I'm confident that we were expecting someone, were we not? Or are we not? Is there, yeah, there's Mike. Whether we can hear Mike or not, I have suspicion that perhaps the audio is not routed correctly to the speaker on the system. That would be my suspicion.
I could hear Rosalind fine, your worship. I'm sure the other participants can hear me now. We're going to try again. Can you hear me, Sarah? Anything yet? I feel like I'm at a seance. Can you hear me?
Okay. I think we've got something wrong with the speaker here in the building. So perhaps Mr. Ron, if you want to defer to the CAO to be your representative here, I think perhaps Mr. John can handle that. Is that comfortable? All right, we're dealing with the drinking water inspection report. It was a very good report. It outlines that we had a 100% positive, or I guess 100% negative, meaning that there were no faults found in any of our water systems in the report. Does any members of council have any questions of this absolutely wonderful report? Seeing none, Mr. CAO, you got off scot easy there. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. All right. Purchase of a pickup truck. I know we have our fire chief in the room, so that will be helpful. Thank you, chief. Okay, council, recommendation be it resolved that report FD 002 2023 dated March 3rd, 2023 be received, and further that the staff be authorized to purchase from a sole source a half-ton pickup truck for the Clearview Fire and Emergency Services Department up to a maximum amount of $65,000. I'll take a mover and seconder to front of the Mr. Broderick and Mr. MacArthur. Thank you. And Chief, do you have any questions or any updates you would like to add to this? Mr. Davidson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for some background right now, dealers are offering incentives to buy 2022 model pickup trucks. And right now ordering a new truck is just not cost effective. And we've covered this prior, but the fire department cannot be included in the leasing program with the township. And I'm attempting to make this as cost effective as possible by looking for an older model pickup truck. And right now they're selling as fast as you can pick up the phone and ask what dealers have. So the idea here is to purchase a vehicle to come in under budget, including taxes and freight and all the extras, which I don't see being a problem.
Okay. Any members of council with any questions to the program? Yes.
Yeah,
Robert.
Acting Chief, I'm just questioning, like I realized because of the modifications needed to the vehicle, do we try to keep them to an absolute minimum so that the resale of the vehicle down the road is optimal?
Through your worship, that's correct.
All right. Members of council, anything further? All right. Thank you, Chief, and thank you for the question. All those in favor? That carries unanimous again. Thank you very much. All right. Members of council, we're at Parks and Recreation. This is the tender results for the Sunnydale Corners Community Center. I'll read the recommendation. I'll look for a mover and seconder, and I can note that Terry Vachon is in the room with us, so you may have questions. Recommendation be it resolved that report PCR 003-2023 dated March 13, 2023 be received, and further that the tender 2023-002 PCR be awarded to Dom Construction Limited for the addition and renovations to the Sunnydale Corners Community Center in the amount of $890,000 plus HST. And further that the additional cost estimates by RJ Burnside and Associates and Alan Avis, is it Avis or Avis? Avis Architects in the amount of $54,000 plus HST to oversee the structural components of the build and consultation of the project be approved. And further, that a bylaw be enacted authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Dom Construction Limited. I'll look for a mover and seconder. Mr. Broderick, seconder. Deputy Mayor, thank you. All right. Terry, if you could take a moment and review where we stand when it comes to this project and how we ended up at this point getting this tender forward.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, perhaps some report highlights, Your Worship. The tenders have come in. The closing number, the best bid was $890,800. Our engineers have estimated a price increase of approximately 13.3% for building construction price index. So that's the inflation from 2022 to 2023. So unfortunately, the prices and the cost to build is still going up. With that 13% increase with inflation, the updated budget would be $764,000 and change. And so at $890,000, the tender came in approximately $126,000 over budget. The amount is, as you could see in the report, we do have approximately 1.5 million as in the reserves as of 2022. Another 250,000 was going in this year, so approximately 1.75 in the reserves. So the reserves would offset these costs. The next hall that's forthcoming is the evening hall, which will be on March 23rd. And part of that report will have an updated financial amount, including the reserves and the amount that would be left to be financed. Also in the report, Your Worship, is the proposed construction schedule. That seems to be another popular question. We're looking at wanting to hopefully award the construction this week, mobilize on site on April 3rd, attain a substantial performance of work on or before August 31st, and ready for takeover back of the hall September the 15th. With that, Your Worship, I'll be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Is there any questions from members of council on this detailed report? Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Your Worship. To Terry, from the halls, do we have a report from the halls with regards to the usage, the financial statements of these halls? I think as a counselor, it would certainly help me to determine down the road if moving forward is viable in all our halls, especially with the costs of the budget of the contract being $200,000 more, 100. It would just help me justify a yes or no to the halls as we move forward. I can, if we don't have that, I will bring a motion forward at the next meeting to ask staff for that report. Thank you.
Terry, do you have any comment on that question?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Walker. To my knowledge, I'm not aware of any report that the halls provide to council on usage. I know some halls do come to council from time to time, but there are council reps that sit on those hall boards. And quite often those reports are reported back by councillors, but there's no formal report to my knowledge. And the financial statements are part of the township's umbrella. So they are part of our overall financial statements. I can't really comment on the details of those financial statements. Perhaps Ms. McDonald can comment to those, but there is financial statements that are available for each hall board. Yes.
All right. To you, Councillor Walker, I do recall that conversation about asking whether we had a report or not. I don't believe there was a motion of council asking for the report at that time. So I'll give credit to the staff that they didn't do something they weren't directed to do. But I understand what you're asking for. Sure. Okay. Members of council. Oh, okay. Marty, I see you right away. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I realize we have tenders coming in for the evening hall as well. And I'm just concerned when we're this far over budget, at what point do we say yay or nay to these? Listening to Mr. Charlton here, it does seem like it's quite a bit over budget. And at some point, I think we have to say, well, let's re-examine this and maybe not approve this.
Are you making a recommendation or are you just suggesting something?
Well, being a new counselor, I'm just, I guess we have to put a motion then to delay this. And then maybe we had missed the tender date. So this seems like quite a bit over budget for me to say, yeah, go ahead and do this.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and I'll look for other members of council and I'll come back to you, Marty. Okay. Members, is there anybody else? Deputy Mayor? Yeah.
Excuse me. I respect your comments there, Councillor Balin. The big thing I've looked at going into this whole project, this was approved by our previous council, obviously. With AODA, it's become a big stickler. We only have 3 years left to do all our work. And at least, I won't say with Sunnydale and with Evening, we'll get our feet wet. We might do that. But we're so far along now with the first two, I would be questioned. Yeah, but the next one comes along. But you got to remember, every hall is important to each community. And the problem is if we don't, and we have to shut these halls down, where are we going to be left with? And we can talk every which way we want. It's a lot of money. We know that. But it is something that the government has legislated we have to do. So saying that, I'm sure I don't like it, but we have to at least the first two look at it and then revisit the process again.
Thank you, Paul. I'm happy with your comments, but at some point it's just too much. So I'm wondering when do we put the brakes on this? But I agree. We've agreed with the previous council has agreed for the first 3 renovations. And then the last 3 or 2, and then we may have to look at the feasibility of the last ones, I think.
I'd agree with that comment. And, I don't know what we can cut. I don't know what our engineers have been directed. But if we have no choice but to make everything compliant and it comes at such a cost, yeah, we may have to make some hard decisions. But the first 2, as far as, I'm looking at, we've gone so far with them. So.
I'm very encouraged to see, frankly, that 2 new members of our council are paying close attention to this. Thank you, because it has been a really difficult process to get to where we are, if I don't mind me saying, because we know right from the start that it was an enormous amount of money, and we've also heard clearly from the volunteers that have been serving this community for years and years and years about the value of these halls. And also to Councillor Walker, we do have some very good anecdotal evidence of the type of activities that they do at their halls. And their financial reports are part of our annual statements that we do get. So we can dig those out of the files and we can take a look at them if you wish. So there are financial statements available. I think you'll be very surprised to find, or perhaps not surprised, find that each of the halls operates quite frugally, meaning that the cost of renting these halls to the members of the public is very, very cheap. In fact, and the purpose of that is to make them accessible for all members of the public to actually use them. Many families have family functions there, gatherings, birthday parties, whatever, are held in these halls, and it's an inexpensive way for many people to have these spaces, to have these gatherings. And so they're not a profit-making machine by any means. And each hall operates differently based on the skill level and the dedication and the activities of each of the volunteers. So some halls have frankly hefty bank accounts, and others have deficits in their bank accounts, but they are all volunteers and they're all part of Clearview Township. To the deputy mayor's comment about we're being forced to do this by the province, this has been an enormous frustration for me, as well as my predecessor, Mayor Vandercruz, who we have all met with the ministries responsible for AODA. We have asked time and time again for some support on this very important effort. It wasn't that long ago that the province actually had a lieutenant governor who was confined to a wheelchair. The purposes of, or the whole messaging of AODA was very clearly brought forward by the government. And, they passed this beautiful resolution and law that has made it a requirement for all public buildings. You might also be interested to know that Queen's Park itself is going to be going through a renovation this summer. Queen's Park itself is going through a big renovation this summer. I can't imagine what they budgeted to do that when the engineers first looked at that project, perhaps 3 years ago, and then what the contracts actually come in. That'd be very interesting to find that information out, considering the amount of money that we're dealing with here. So I'm of the mind that I think we continue down this path while we still have funds available to do these type of projects, support the volunteers that have been very active in our community, support the community by providing these facilities and creating these halls that are available to enrich the lives of our residents. And I would hope that we continue. I absolutely agree that this next round of buildings and building renovations, we're going to have a very clear heart-to-heart discussion with each other, with financing, with the volunteers, and determine at what point we can't do it. I think we can do it right now, so I'm inclined to support the resolution as it's been presented. So I look to members of council. Is there anything further you want to add? Yes, Phyllis Deneen.
I just to Councillor Walker, through your worship, the bank statements for each of the hall boards is included in their agenda. For interest sake, if you'd like to see them, just take a quick peek at each of the agendas, and it gives you an idea of what's coming and going through the halls. Just for interest sake, more than anything. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? I saw your card up. Yes, Mr. Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just an observation. This has been a long, drawn-out process, and Mr. Charlton certainly raises some interesting points. But my observation is the further along we go with this, it has not got cheaper. It's gotten a lot more expensive, and the further we delay this, the more expensive it probably will get. I see in one of the recommendations here, the voluntary alternatives 1 and 2, which could reduce the bid by $85,000. Has that been thoroughly vetted?
I'm sorry, I misunderstand what you're looking for.
If you go to the very bottom of the last page, recommendations. There are 5 recommendations. Recommendation number 2.
Okay. Terry, can you comment on that?
Sure can. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Broderick, it has not been vetted yet. Our project manager is looking into it. There is perhaps an $85,000 savings from the tender. That was presented as an option to the tender. But we're still in the process of doing that. There is a very good chance that that may happen and the price may come down to 85,000. But it's still being looked into. For this evening's meeting, we just wanted to present the tender as presented and work with the options later. So there might be an opportunity there. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Since we're getting into some into the weeds, as somebody used to say around here, I got a question, if I may. The price on the platform lift, which is division number 14 platform lift, Dom says 53,008 and Sabcon says 28. And then Anaconda says 34. I'd just like to know if they're all buying the same lift. Like the prices seem to be very different for the cost of the lift. So I would be interested to know if this quote was given on the specifications that our engineers had asked for that specific lift. And that would be a third-party project that would be delivered and installed on site. So I found it interesting that 34,000, 28,000, and 53,000. Terry, any thought?
Yeah, Your Worship, we can look into it a little further to find out what the discrepancy is between those amounts. Obviously, the company that was chosen as number 1 are obviously more expensive. So we can dig into deeper and perhaps there's a little bit more savings there as well. We can explore that.
Okay. Well, I know that between you and the project manager, you could keep an eye on it. All right. Anybody else with any yes, Robert MacArthur.
When you're talking about the lift, so I see we've got an elevator in there as well as a platform lift. So
Right. That's what
why do we need both? What is the design?
I was kind of concerned about that because I didn't understand the difference. Terry, you got any comment on that too?
Through Your Worship, no, unfortunately, I don't know those details. I'll take a stab at it. I think it's not like a lift that you're thinking like a stairway lift. It's not one of those lifts. I think it's more of a platform lift, probably more at the top where the elevator meets the floor. But I'll have to get back to you on those details. It's more of an engineering type of question that I can't answer.
Yes, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe the platform lift is at the stage level. I believe it is to be accessibility for an individual that needs to get up onto the stage because the elevators are not at that end. So that stage lift, that lift is for be put on a corner of the stage so that if anybody needs to access the stage, they can access the stage through that platform lift. I believe that's what that platform lift is for.
That makes sense. I was just concerned when I saw the lift prices. I thought it's a pretty simple device, and I thought that it was just quoted as one price. That's Terry. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And yes, Councillor Walker is 100% correct. It was an option that was provided versus having a long ramp. With the scale of a ramp, the hall actually isn't long enough. So the only other option was to have a lift at the stage to be able to get folks with accessibility needs onto the stage.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Walker.
Anyway, that's okay. Sorry, Phyllis Deneen. Thank you.
Okay. My take on all of this with all the different amounts were that each contractor has their own areas of expertise and in-house resources and are probably used to doing something different, and that some of them don't have the resource to it and have to contract out some of those things. So it all comes out in the wash at the end of it. That was my take on it.
Good call. Thank you. All right. Sorry to delay it. Anything further? Yes, Robert.
Yeah, my only other comment was the additional cost for the engineers and whatnot to oversee the project. Can our building inspectors, do they not have the qualifications to oversee these projects, or what's the answer to that question?
If I can go to the CAO, John, we talked about that earlier today. Can you update council on that position? project manager and the Gary, go ahead. You didn't have your mic on. Anyway, I think we got the message from council's point of view. Go ahead, Terry.
Sorry, your worship. I don't have a comment with respect to Mr. Ferguson. I have another comment to make regarding the project as a whole.
Sure.
Whenever you're ready. I don't want to.
Good. Are you good, John? Robert, first of all, did you understand the? Okay. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, your worship. Just to close the loop with respect to the next two halls and to notify council. So once and if these two tenders are approved, our department is looking at wanting to bring the next two hall report sometime in late spring. So probably sometime in May or June. So you won't have to wait too long to discuss the next two. Our hope is to, recap council with a lot of the information that was provided back in 2020 and 2021 over Zoom, of course. So perhaps provide another little bit of an education session on how council made these decisions and to start discussing the next two halls. So you should have those sometime in May or June. Thank you, your worship.
Yep. Thank you for reminding me about the endless Zoom meetings that we had about this. I think you and I attended every single one of them, didn't we? With all the boards. Thank you. Members of council, anything further? Yes, Robert.
Yeah, so just with regards to Councillor Broderick's question about the voluntary alternatives. So if we approve the contract at the 890, can we put in an amendment to say we only approve it if we get this 85,000 reduction? Or exactly how will that procedure work?
I believe
the pay our money and take our chance.
Well, council does not project manage any of the projects. So the responsibility here is to pass the project to the staff, and the staff then work within their abilities to provide, the function that's been directed to the best of their ability within the finances that are available. So we have a top end budget that's been set. We have a top end budget their item that's been approved, and there will be savings if some of our staff demonstrate that they can make those decisions. But this council has the responsibility to make the decision based on the information for the tender, right? John, you wanted to speak?
Thank you, your worship. Just to add to Councillor Broderick on that last part, these are recommendations that come from the actual engineer, my understanding, the architects, and they're making these recommendations to do that. So you could include that in your motion to accept the recommendations by Jason Morgan Architects.
Okay, well, we can do that. As I pointed out, it's been our practice to pass these type of resolutions and allow staff to make those decisions in the best interest of the corporation by providing those savings, right? Remember that at the end of the day, when the taxpayers have paid for these projects, if there's any savings, they go back into the reserve accounts, which help float the rest of our reserves. So whether we get a savings at this point or whether we get a savings later, it matters on how the staff and the project manager directs the project. If council wants to be directing, they can go ahead and do that. But I'm just pointing out that's been the procedure that I've always seen. I'm looking to Terry. Terry, you agree with that logic? That's been the procedure that you've worked with on any of your projects that you've been delivered?
That is correct, your worship, in the last 6 years, yes.
Yeah. All right. Council, what would you like to do then? Do you want to direct that option, or what are you thinking? Deputy Mayor.
I'd just like to, my comment to that is, I'd like to the problem I have, I want to make sure we compare apples to apples, and I don't want to make a decision based on dollars. We want, if we're putting a lift in, we want to make sure we get the proper one, because I saw one line I couldn't figure out. It says to federal, so I'm not sure if it's to federal standards or something like that. We have to defer to the engineer and with the direction, but not as far as an item, as far as voting on the item tonight. we have to vote for it in its entirety.
Okay, I'm looking for your recommendation.
I'll make a motion. If that's what you're looking for.
That's kind of what I need to hear.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposed budget or proposed contract from Dom Construction of Ayton, Ontario in the amount of, do you have the amount there, Barb, by any chance?
Well, we've got a motion that's already moved and
Okay.
seconded. That's what we're debating. But the issue that I'm wondering are you asking for any changes in it?
No, I'm not. I want to vote on it the way it is.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear. And that's what I'm hoping that you're trying to
Yep. I want.
portray.
Yep.
Oh, gosh, good. All right, members of council, this is a difficult one. I appreciate. Any other comments? All right, I'm prepared to call a motion. Just to be clear, it's moved by Broderick, seconded by who? Oh, Paul, you were the seconder. Sorry, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, any questions? I'll call the motion. All those in favor, please. And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I know I think they reset the Zoom, so if we can maybe do a test for staff and see if they can hear.
All right. Mike Ron, can you join council for a minute? Again, from where I sit, I don't see who's on board. Hello, Mike. Could you give us a voice check? See if your mic's working.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mike. Nice to hear you.
Oh, good job.
All right. Looks like our staff. By the way, Mike, how did the CAO do handling the questions in that very important water issue?
I'm not sure that I could hear the CAO at that time, Your Worship. But I'm sure he did wonderful. Everyone did a good job to get 100%. Rock 95 was boasting about the city of Barrie's 100% score for a couple of days, so felt pertinent to put it on the agenda.
Well, there you go. Let's promote that, folks. You tell everybody we had a 100% score in our water right here. All right. Thank you, Mike, for joining us for a moment there. All right, Madam Clerk, we're going to move on to the Finance Department, where we have a report regarding our youth center. Okay, be it resolved that report FIN 006 2023 dated March 13, 2023, be received, and further the bylaw be enacted authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into a lease renewal agreement with AFTAB Enterprises on a month-to-month basis at $2,523.50 per month plus HST. Can I have a mover and seconder? Broderick? Walker? Thank you. Terry, you have any comment? Oh, I'm sorry. Kelly's there. Nice to see you, Kelly. I know it's your report, but I was looking at Terry because it's a youth center. Kelly, what would you like to say?
Good evening, Your Worship. I am available for questions, but actual functionality of the youth center is all in Terry's wheelhouse.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that, Kelly. Nice to see you tonight. Members of council, any questions? Seeing none? Oh, yes, Mr. Walker.
Your Worship, I'm just disappointed that we're having the additional charges have jumped that much again for the so-called common area. I just hope that everybody's being treated fairly then, that we aren't the only ones paying for the common area in that facility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise. Paying for the parking lot space and snow removal and et cetera. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We should perhaps ask staff just to keep an eye on that and report back if there's any changes. Members of council, you comfortable? Yes, go ahead, Deputy
Just
Mayor.
a quick question to Councillor Walker. I know you're involved with the youth center. They're slowly but surely, I understand, outgrowing that facility. Are they looking at alternative or options?
I'm not sure I can answer that. We haven't had a youth committee. We don't have one because of no bodies, but we are outgrowing that facility. And I'm assuming that Parks and Rec are looking at alternatives. If not, they likely will be soon.
I think that's a fair answer.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, members of council, you got a motion in front of you. Anything further? Seeing none, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Kelly, for joining us. All right, council. The CAO has presented his annual corporate report. So be it resolved that the report CAO 002-2023 dated March 13, 2023 be received. Mover and seconder, Councillor Janine, Councillor Broderick, thank you. Mr. CAO, would you like to speak to it or shall we move on? Mr. CAO. Microphone on there, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. I often forget to do that. I would just like to say that it's been a very interesting year, the past year, with all the changes coming out of COVID and then adjusting to all the things that we have to do and putting on most of the activities that we have. I think everybody's done a great job. We're working through a lot of complex issue. A lot of the staff are tied up, but I would say that the financial position of the municipality is good. And a lot of our services are being met. And I just want to commend our staff for the work that they've done with respect to this annual report.
Thank you very much. I had a copy printed up here, so I have it here on my desk. The annual report. I guess it'll be available online almost immediately after this meeting sometime. For the benefit of the members of the media that are in the room, I actually printed one and left one on the desk there in case you guys want to have a look at it. I think it's still there. If not, you can grab this one here a little bit later. I found it to be a very helpful report and very interesting to review all of the department works. I would encourage all members of council and perhaps even members of the public to have a review of it and have a look, and you can see what's in that report and what our township has been doing last year. All right. Anybody got anything further? Any questions? Yes, Mr. Beelan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Somewhere in the report, I read that we were trialing a ditch digger or slasher or whatever. Where do we stand on that? Do we buy one or we're still renting it or?
Mr. CAO, did we not purchase a ditching machine? But I think we had one here on trial or something. It was a used one. yes. We bought a used one there a while ago. Yeah, we bought a used ditching machine. I think that one that's in the picture is not ours and was here, and it does sort of the mowing and chopping of the ditches and so on. Yeah. Yeah, tilt and all that. We didn't buy that. That's a pretty expensive machine.
One similar? Or?
Yeah. Perhaps again, if Mike Ron is on board. Mike, you might just speak to it.
It looked like a good investment if it worked out.
Mike, Dan's not with us tonight, but I know that you might know a little bit about that. Mike?
So we purchased a Gradle from a contractor that used to do work for the municipality. We had it checked out, made it certifiable to purchase a new one. I don't know the cost. Dan would have to speak to what a new one was worth, but I know we did an extremely good deal on it, and it was put into use somewhat last fall.
Do you know anything about the demonstration rental of the Busher unit that is in the report? Do you know anything about that?
I do not.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Sorry.
All right.
Page 27 is when it's on.
It's like a brusher head on it. The deputy mayor knows about this type of stuff.
These can all be added on to.
Yeah.
To the machine.
No, it's a good question, but I know we did not purchase this one that's in this photograph. I know we did not. So yeah, that's the one. Nice looking piece of gear. Yeah. All right. That was a good question. Thank you. Anybody else with any questions on this report? All right. I'm prepared to call the motion then. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Council, I believe we are at our bylaws. Okay. The bylaws. First one is 2324. It's the Clearview Youth Center lease agreement. Be it resolved that a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the corporation of the Township of Clearview and AFTAB Enterprises for the property located at 7458 Highway 26, units 9 and 10, Stainer, be presented and read a first, second, and third time finally passed on the 13th day of March 2023. Can I have a mover? Mr. Walker, seconder, Councillor Janine. Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And the bylaw carries. Thank you. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, we have an on-desk report regarding appointment bylaw for 22-101. It's Schedule A. Be it resolved that bylaw 23-25, being a bylaw to amend Schedule A of bylaw 22-101, appointing members to the Township of Clearview committees and boards, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, 13th day of March 2023. A mover, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and seconded by Mr. MacArthur this time. Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries unanimous. Thank you. Sunnydale Hall renovation agreement. Be it resolved that bylaw 23-26, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Dom Construction Limited for the addition and renovation of Sunnydale Corners Community Center, located at 12391 County Road 10, Stainer, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 13th day of March 2023. Can I have a mover and seconder? Mr. Broderick, is there a seconder? Mr. Walker. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Bylaw carries unanimous. Thank you. At this point, we have notice of motion. I don't think our new business. I don't think there's anything on the floor. Nothing's come forward. Perhaps we'll hear from you later, Mr. Walker. Smiling, of course. And a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of our council meeting tonight, be it resolved bylaw 23, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the March 13, 2023 council meeting, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, 13th day of March 2023. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Broderick. All those in favor? And the confirmatory passes. And at this time, I have the motion to adjourn.
7:17.
And 7:17 is the time we've been offered. All right. Just before that, I want to mention, council, just to remind you, we do have a workshop here on, is it Thursday? I think it is Thursday. It's first thing in the morning. Yes. So come ready. We'll have coffee and decaf coffee for me right here. We're going to be right here in this chamber. That's right. We're going to be. It's a full workshop on our responsibilities under water responsibility. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So it's a great workshop. Yeah, it's still 7:17 because I'm still talking. We're going to call it 7:17. Moved by Councillor MacArthur, seconded by Councillor Deneen. All those in favor? And this council is now adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.